Welcome to the Spring 2016 quarterly webinar hosted by the Economic Alliance of Greater Baltimore. My name is Patrick Doherty. I am the Chief Market Analyst here at the EAGB. I'm joined today by Shelby Richardson Lau. Shelby is our new business liaison, and she's going to be helping me with some of the slides that we're presenting today. If you're not familiar, the Central Maryland Biohealth Innovation Index, which is the topic of our presentation today, is a report that the EAGB and BHI, or Biohealth Innovation, partnered on with support from the Economic Development Administration, the EDA, through a federal grant, and recently released early last week. So with that, we will go ahead and jump right into it. If you have any questions as we're going through, don't hesitate to type your questions right into the chat box. We will go ahead and read them out loud and answer them to the best of our ability. This presentation is being recorded and it's going to be added on to YouTube later on. So anybody who would like to share this with their friends and colleagues or was unable to join us today will have an opportunity to see it there as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. The Central Maryland Biohealth Innovation Index was designed to benchmark Greater Baltimore among 7 peer biohealth markets. We chose the 7 markets that we felt like were the top biohealth markets in the country and arguably the world. We'll get to which ones we selected in a second, and you will probably recognize all of them as popular markets, not only for biohealth, but for many other forms of innovation and entrepreneurship and economic growth as well. We measured Baltimore in the areas of talent, research, commercialization, and compared well in talent overall. Many of the we measured talent, and we compared well in research, specifically in higher education research. There's a little bit less success in the commercialization sphere, although there were points of how are we doing now? Are we getting sound back? Okay, great. Looked like we had some trouble with the actual internet connection, which obviously would present trouble with the audio connection as well. So we'll go ahead and keep an eye on the connection as well, and if things drop again, we'll see how we can troubleshoot. So I'm going to back up just a little bit, and hopefully we won't have missed very much. Central Maryland compares well to its peers, its purposely selected peers in talent and research. There's a little bit less success in the commercialization sphere, although there are aspects to commercialization that Central Maryland compares well in. And then finally, we're not lacking for human capital and talent or technologies that are commercially relevant, but there is not necessarily a lack, but there is an opportunity to improve in the area of entrepreneurship as well. So we'll go ahead and get into exactly who we compare it with, like I said, healthcare and information technologies, it includes things like medical device manufacturing using advanced manufacturing techniques. It includes cybersecurity protections for electronic medical records. It includes certain kinds of pharmaceutical manufacturing, and it includes wearable or implantable health devices and monitors. We've defined everything in the report as Central Maryland, which includes the greater Baltimore region, which is shown here in red, and the yellow counties, which are technically a part of the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, but again, are Maryland suburbs. That's Frederick, Montgomery, and Prince George's counties. We've gone ahead and done this because, as I'll show you on the next slide, a lot of the state's biohealth assets take place in this Baltimore to Washington corridor. And the commuting patterns support a really fluid movement between the Baltimore and Washington metropolitan regions, particularly in those Maryland, D.C. suburbs. We see a lot of people willing to live in Montgomery County and commute up to Howard County or Baltimore City or even all the way to Harford County. It's a pretty regular occurrence, which is one of the nice things about having two metropolitan areas so close together. We end up with a really large, fluid, and well-trained labor force. So like I said, this is a density map of all of the biohealth establishments as recently as 2012 in the central Maryland region. As you can see, there's sort of this white hot density taking place in Montgomery County. There's some areas of heat again in Frederick and Howard County, in Baltimore City, and it branches all the way up 83 into Baltimore County. You see a little bit in in Howard County, and then as well in Harford and Cecil counties. So it's really taking place all over the region. But like I said, there's definitely this critical mass almost between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., which is really why we wanted to measure things on this greater Baltimore / central Maryland scale rather than sticking to just the greater Baltimore region. So the metropolitan areas that we ranked ourselves against would be Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Raleigh-Durham, San Diego, and San Francisco. And if the sound cut out earlier, I apologize. These are metropolitan areas that we selected because they are the country's premier biohealth markets. These are the places that everybody would rank as the top places for innovation and entrepreneurship, often not just in the biohealth or life sciences spaces, but also in the technology sphere as well. So with our goal of wanting to be the best or wanting to be one of the top 3 biohealth regions by 2023, we had to rank ourselves and benchmark against the best and figure out how we can make moves to the top of the list. So as you can see here, not to give too much away, even though we're looking at the final rankings, Baltimore ranked #1 overall in talent, tied with New York at that level, but then falters when it comes to some aspects of research and development, and then again in entrepreneurship and capital. So there's certainly a really strong foundation to build from in the Baltimore Central Maryland region. We've got a really highly educated workforce. We've got a lot of people who are well trained in this area. A lot of people have gotten degrees in biohealth relevant fields. It's just a matter of taking a lot of technology that's being researched and dreamed up in our laboratories and putting it into the commercial space. And we'll get into sort of how we measured those things in just a few slides. But this is the final takeaway, I guess. And one thing to note, it's not apparent here, but there is a really tight spread to a lot of this data. So while Baltimore ranks 6th, we're very close to Raleigh-Durham ranking 5 and San Diego ranking 4. So over time, and with a lot of things that we're seeing in this data already being addressed at the university level and at the entrepreneurial level, we wouldn't be surprised to see Baltimore leapfrog both Raleigh-Durham and San Diego in the next few years, just based on some really minimal changes or minor changes that we're seeing take place at those levels now. So the first bucket that we want to talk about is talent. In each of these buckets, I should add, we researched 10 to 15 different data points, and we've measured them both on a magnitude and a density basis. And so I'll get to that in a little bit. But what you're seeing here is biohealth workforce density, and then also the type of training or education that our professionals in the region have. So we've just called that labor force density. So in addition to talking about how many more biohealth professionals than average the region has, In the full report, if you're interested in looking that far, we've also got the actual total number of people working in biohealth industries. So it's a way for us to say both, on a per capita level, how do we rank, but also on a general size magnitude level, how do we rank, which is a pretty cool way to do it, in my opinion. So first things first, biohealth workforce density. Again, these are fields. These are fields that would include everything from computer sciences and computer information research, all the way to some healthcare professions, a lot of biotechnology-based professions, anything that could potentially lead to a scalable biohealth, biotechnology company that then employs a number of people and is very economically productive. So we've got 20%, about 20% more biohealth professionals than the national average here in Greater Baltimore, which ranks third, as you can see, behind Raleigh, Durham, and Boston. I also kind of like to point out, not disparagingly to Raleigh, Durham, but biohealth is definitely, the major industry in that area, in the UNC and Duke area. Whereas in places like Baltimore and Central Maryland, we've got a really strong, thriving tech sector that exists outside of the healthcare industry as well. So for us to be so dense with biohealth professionals, in addition to having strengths in other areas, is really cool and a really good thing to see just outside of even being a good sign for biohealth more specifically. And then as we look at biohealth labor force density, which again is the number of people with relevant degrees to biohealth fields, as you can see, biological, agricultural, and environmental science degrees. And then we've also lumped into their computer science and mathematics degrees for things like cybersecurity and data science as it relates to healthcare and health information technology. Baltimore ranks second to Raleigh Durham. We educate a ton of people with in fields that would be relevant to running or starting a biohealth company. So again, this is just two examples of how we've got a really strong formation for building a really great and really competitive biohealth industry here in the Central Maryland region. I'm going to turn this slide over to Shelby, and she's going to tell you about research and development at the higher education level, or excuse me, at the university level.
So as you can see, the Baltimore and Central Maryland area is ranked 5 overall, but you can separate these sections into 2 tiers. So can everybody hear me now? Okay. So I was saying that even though Baltimore and Central Maryland ranks 5th overall in R&D, we can actually separate the two into 2 different tiers. Because if you notice that the difference between Boston and Baltimore and Central Maryland is about 20,000, which is this is showing that we spend about 40,000 per graduate student at the university level. So the top 5 places are actually very close, and as Patrick was saying earlier, we have a good chance of leapfrogging around and possibly ranking higher in the future. Especially that we have Johns Hopkins here, and it's one of the U.S.'s biggest biohealth R&D spenders.
Right, thank you, Shelby. The reason we like to talk about biohealth research and development expenditures on a per graduate student level is one, that gives us this density or per capita view of what's going on in the region. But it also speaks to, one, the opportunities that students in the region have to engage in university research, at the graduate level. So that's a really relevant job experience for many students. And then two, for companies that are going to be hiring, recent master's or doctorate graduates, they like to see also, we would expect, they would like to see that the students they're hiring have this relevant experience with working in a laboratory. So spending about $40,000 per graduate student, we believe gives us an opportunity to, build on this culture of novel innovation as well. And then the total number is also really impressive. Universities in the Central Maryland region spent $1.7 billion on biohealth R&D in 2013 alone. So really, definitely really competitive on this R&D level. And that's why I kind of pointed out in the beginning that there's sometimes this question of spread. Like Shelby said, even though we rank fifth here, we're much closer to third and fourth than we are to sixth and seventh. Um, so this is one of the areas where we are definitely very competitive, even if the final ranking doesn't really reflect that, because it's hard to get so much nuance into a final number. But I guess where there's the most opportunity, in my opinion, is shown really in this chart. This kind of tells the whole story, right? Um, Despite spending so much on research and development at the university level, our universities are bringing in very little income. There's very little return on investment. It's about 67 cents per $100 of research expenditure at the university level in 2013. Now, our universities will never realize a 10x return or a 3x return or even a 1x return, nor do we want them to. New York, all the way on the right hand side there, it's bringing in about $15 per $100 of research expenditure, is about the highest in the country. So it's never going to be a true major money making opportunity for the universities, but certainly you have to push technologies into the commercial space. You have to build companies around them. You have to license out that technology to entrepreneurs in order to see a return on that investment. So with as much money as being put into the R&D space at our university level, we think there's a real opportunity to see more of that end up entering, or excuse me, more of the resulting technologies enter the commercial sphere and end up being the foundation for new small businesses. And that's where we'll Hi, everybody. We're back. I really apologize for the connection issues. Sometimes technology just doesn't work the way that you want or expect it to. I will go ahead and start back over with the slide. I apologize if you've heard 80% or 90% of it already. But this license income slide at our universities per $100 of research expenditure kind of tells the whole story that we're trying to address with this Biohealth Innovation Index project, and more generally out in the commercialization space at universities and with our partners, Biohealth Innovation. Our universities spend so much on research and development that there is a real opportunity to translate the resulting technologies and the resulting developments into the commercial space, to license them out to entrepreneurs, to build companies around them, and to have our universities realize one, an income from that licensing, but two, to see people again creating new businesses, creating new jobs, expanding, becoming a more productive economy from it. So there's definitely an opportunity here in this space, because as we're seeing, Baltimore and Central Maryland universities get about 67 cents back from every $100 of R&D expenditure that they made in 2013. The national leaders are New York in that space. They get about $15 for every $100 of research expenditure. So this is never going to be an opportunity for our universities to generate like a 3x profit or anything like that. But it's certainly an opportunity in the economic development sphere for us to see more startups, more jobs, and more productivity. One of our metrics for entrepreneurship was the number of fast-growing health and IT services companies that are in the region. This map here is showing the locations of those of the 36 health and IT services companies. You'll notice that two of them relocated out of the Central Maryland area after being ranked on the Inc. 5000 list, which was our measure for fast-growing private industries. Fast-growing private companies. If you're not familiar with the Inc. 5000 list, they rank the 5,000 fastest-growing private companies in the country. We had 121 overall. Again, 36 of them were in the health and IT services space. So ones that could potentially touch the biohealth space if they were so inclined. On a per capita level, this actually compared pretty well with our biohealth peers. And it also indicated to us that the ingredients are in the region for successful growth of companies. And the missing link is really in the formation of the companies, not in the resources available to companies that are interested in expanding and growing here. So it's a matter of just creating more companies, not necessarily helping, we do have to continue helping the companies that exist to grow and improve. But if we have the opportunity to create more, the resources are there and the opportunity is there for them to grow and to be successful. And finally, capital, which if you are at all familiar with the economic development space, you know that is a big pain point for many Central Maryland companies. So first things first, the NIH offers SBIR, or Small Business Innovation Research, and STTR grants. STTR stands for Technology Transfer Research. And in this metric, the Central Maryland area does generally a pretty good job of bringing in capital, which is important because for many biohealth companies, they treat NIH SBIR capital as a benchmark. They treat it as sort of their first proof of concept. If you can't win an SBIR, then there's really not much to take onto a venture capital meeting, for example. So this is a big step for a lot of early companies in proving that what they have is valuable. I see that Walker asked whether we'll be covering why Baltimore and Central Maryland is ranked last in technology transfer. Walker, that's a really great question. I don't know that I have a specific answer for you, other than to say, at least anecdotally, I have sort of come to see that it is a question of culture rather than a question of opportunity. As we discussed before, there's a lot of research taking place. It's just a matter of people wanting to or being willing to move that into the commercial space. And in my opinion, and I don't know that I have any real data, yes, there is a gap analysis in process. And I also should add that fortunately, I'm not the first person to recognize the issue. And a lot of our universities specifically are working to make sure that they are commercializing more and more of their technology because they have seen this as an opportunity for their own growth in their own right, even before we started researching these numbers. So I don't want to say that we're late to the party, but certainly this is something that is not a brand new issue to anybody. But so I think there's a culture of the purity of research, one, and there's also a culture of risk aversion in the region, with money for R&D generally readily available in this area. It hasn't necessarily been prudent to branch out on your own and take the risk of being an entrepreneur. And that's, again, speaking very generally. And it's also my opinion of what's going on. So I think that is changing. I think that that our universities and our research laboratories are focused on improving their culture of both risk taking and of the importance of commercialization of their technologies. And I think that within just a few years, we'll be seeing a pretty different story from the technology transfer aspect of things. Yeah, no problem, Walker. So I apologize. Back to SBIR funding. So SBIR is generally the first infusion and one of the most important infusions of capital that a young biohealth company is going to have. As you can see Baltimore and Central Maryland generally do a pretty good job. Baltimore Central Maryland companies do a pretty good job of actually winning those SBIR grants. In terms of total funding, very similar to San Francisco, San Diego, and New York. And in terms of per capita funding per 10,000 residents, Central Maryland is again very similar to San Francisco, and it's ahead of Philadelphia, ahead of New York, ahead of Pittsburgh. Um, Sort of Raleigh, Durham, Boston, and San Diego are kind of in a league of their own in terms of SBIR funding per capita. But Baltimore has been pretty steady in this area, and it's been pretty similar to other regions that we generally consider to be good innovation regions. So this is an opportunity for us to continue doing well what we already do well. And I also want to call out here our partners at BHI, who have a program to assist companies in applying for SBIR and STTR grants. The companies that have BHI's help in applying for these grants have a success rate that's about double the success rate that we see across the state of Maryland, and which is also about the national average too. So our friends at BHI at BioHealth Innovation are very good at getting these SBIR grants. So if you or someone you know is interested in winning an SBIR grant, definitely talk to them because they are a tremendous resource down in Montgomery County. But the next infusion of capital is venture capital. And this is where, again, not specific to biohealth, we see an opportunity for Baltimore to improve. Boston and San Francisco, well, specifically San Francisco, is kind of in a league of its own when it comes to venture capital investment. Boston, again, is kind of up in that same first tier, and everybody else is earning about the same amount of venture capital investment. Baltimore is similar in terms of total investment to Philadelphia, Raleigh, Durham, and then doing better than Pittsburgh. But again, this is an area that, at least in my opinion, is something that would be fixed a little bit farther down the road. This isn't something that we fix with only a handful of companies to talk about. This is something that sort of fixes itself when more companies are being formed and more technology is being transferred out of laboratories and universities and research institutions. So again, an opportunity for growth, maybe something that is addressed a little bit farther down the line, but definitely worth keeping in mind where we compare and how we compare to our peers here. So with that, we have a few minutes. I know we're scheduled to go until 3:30. We can stay a few minutes longer if people have questions, but feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. If you leave today and you think of something that you wish you had asked or you felt like you should have asked, our contact information is available on the screen right here. So feel free to drop us a line. We're happy to answer any questions or follow up on any research questions that you have. I also want to draw your attention to our web links box right here. If you're interested in reading the full report, it's available right here, the Central Maryland BioHealth Innovation Index. If you're interested in a really cool interactive summary that's built on some technology, go ahead and click the BioHealth Index Interactive Summary. That way you can pick up the general gist of things and drill down much deeper onto the information that is really relevant to you without having to read through the nice long report. And then finally, if you're used to joining these things and seeing what we call our quarterly economic update, which is generally based on 10 or 12 economic indicators about the region and the region's economic health, we decided not to cover it today because this is a pretty cool topic and deserves 30 minutes of its own. But we do still produce that quarterly, and I strongly encourage you to pick that up and read it so you can stay up to date on some of the new stats and economic indicators. Ursula says thank you, and I gotta say thank you to all of you. I really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Thank you very much for your time and attention and your willingness to work with us on these technical issues. So I hope you learned something today. I hope you go ahead and read some of these publications, and I hope you reach out to us if you do have any questions or would like to work with us on any of this research in the future. So thank you all very much, and we will see you next time.